Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U. Tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Jean Mackey. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to IT4U. I'm your host, Jean Mackey. These are interactive webinars brought to you by ITS. And just a couple tips before we get to the presentation. If you're having any audio or video problems during the webinar, let us know in the chat pod. If it's not our end, we can offer some tips. If you're watching the YouTube recording of this, look in the description for a link to a Google Doc with some live links, and I will also send that out when I send out the recording. If you need an accommodation to participate in one of our live episodes, just give us a little bit of a heads up. What's coming up? So in October, they've made a lot of improvements and changes to Canvas, which staff can use some. It's mostly for faculty, but staff can also use it. So if you're interested in that, I'll also send out the link to register later today. And today, we've got Google Team Drives with Jennifer Moruck and Brian Kors. And let me just switch to their presentation and turn it over to Brian and Jen.
Cool. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jen's right here. So I'm Brian Kors. I'm with ITS and here to talk to you a little bit about Google Team Drives. So Google Team Drives is a new thing that Google's been working on, and we're really excited to bring it to campus. And we wanted to share some info with you about it and talk about when it'll be available and what features it offers. So you did go full screen here.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's actually right under where camera, right under there. So can you move that maybe?
Yeah.
There
we go. Cool. Excellent. Cool. So what are Google Team Drives? They are a shared space right within Google Drive where teams can create, store, search, collaborate on, and have access to all of their team-owned files. And the big difference is that the files are team-owned. Collectively by a team rather than individuals. So no content within a Team Drive folder is individually owned, and this makes team data more secure and available to everybody. So why does it matter who owns files? As long as everyone has access, believe it or not, people leave U of M in some way or another. They either leave the university, they leave their department, they switch over to a new unit, school, or college. And so this helps to make sure the data is accessible by folks on the team after they leave.
If they're lucky, they retire.
Right, right. So as we all know, like we said, team membership changes for various reasons. And because of that, there's potential loss of team data when files are owned by a person rather than a team. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how to get started with your own Team Drive and go from there. So we are looking to make this available to campus in October. Jen and I and our team have been working really hard this summer to test all the various aspects of Team Drive and are working now on creating and finalizing documentation on how it's best used on campus, best practices, and recommendations. Once Google Team Drives is made widely available to campus, then users, folks who would like to have a Team Drive created will submit a ticket to the ITS Service Center to get started with one.
You got a question already.
Okay.
Luke wants to know, why do documents I created in Team Drive still show me as the owner? We don't have Team Drives yet.
He shouldn't have a Team Drive yet. Is he sure that it is his team? It's a Team Drive?
We'll see what Luke has to say about that.
Okay.
Sounds good. So Team Drive membership. It's a little different than standard Drive because of the new way that the team-based permissions work. First of all, you can manage your membership and permissions through M Communities. So you can create an M Community group as a Team Drive member, effectively having all of those people in that M Community group have access to that Google Team Drive.
You can also use existing M Community groups, so
Yes.
there's no need to create a new one if you already have one, which is nice.
Yeah. And so when someone is taken out of the M Community group, then they are also removed from the various Team Drives that it had access to.
Nancy is saying that some of us got early access, and Luke says, yes, it is a Team Drive, so maybe we'll get to that further into it.
So this is where it varies from standard drive a little bit. So are all team members equal? No, but yes. They are all equal in that they all have access to, at the very least, view files within a team drive. There's a new thing called full access, and that level of access is kind of the manager level or the admin level of that particular team drive. So those folks who have full access can manage membership, upload documents, edit, delete, and most importantly, delete files and move them. You also have edit access, comment access, and view access. So anyone with edit access can edit existing content or add content to that drive. They just can't delete anything. So this is a little table of kind of the various levels of permission and what people can or cannot do. So you can see full access pretty much has everything. And we really recommend that full access is only given to folks who are kind of in that management level of making that team, keeping that team managed appropriately. Edit access is really the best access for folks who are wanting to collaborate within a Google Team Drive. And it helps in that they don't have the ability to delete. And so it makes sure that the data is retained.
You'll notice on this graph that another thing that full access gives, at the very bottom you'll see it, full access gives people the ability to rename the team drive, which can be problematic if too many people have that team drive. There could also be more than one team drive. So you want to make sure that you only give a few people full access, because that really gives them the ability to do absolutely everything in that team drive, including rename the team drive. And
yeah. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Pretty much almost anything you can do in Google Drive, you can do in Google Team Drive. So you can create documents, store them, organize them, star them, delete them if you have full access, restore them. You have advanced search. You can also have the full ability to collaborate with docs, sheets, and slides, and it's compatible with Mac, Windows, and Linux platforms. So when you want to create a file in Team Drive, when you have Team Drives available to you, you'll see right underneath My Drive, you'll have something called Team Drives. You won't see that until you have a Team Drive provisioned to you. And team members can create files in that Team Drive the same way that they would in standard Google Drive. They can also upload and drag or drop other file types into their Team Drive as well.
Renee wants to know what access levels allow members to download files / content.
That would be...
I think it's definitely, we go back to the, you can upload and download, so access. You can also, just like in regular My Drive, you can prohibit people from downloading. So that's an option as well. But yeah.
And Nancy says, won't having full access be an admin burden to who has to manage the files? In a big team, this could be a problem.
That's why one of the reasons that we recommend giving full access to just a couple of people. And in terms of it being a big burden, I mean, I think that it's basically what people are doing right now with their team files. It's just making sure it's in a team drive so that they're not individually owned. So I don't think that those with full access necessarily have to do extra work. They just have the ability to do extra things if and when it becomes needed.
Eric says, who owns a T drive? If a particular person does only one with full access and leaves you out, will not that be the same problem as regular Google Docs?
We definitely recommend giving more than one person full access.
Yes, yeah.
And of course, if you have a team drive and that's where all your team data is, you want to be diligent in terms of if someone is leaving and they have full access, then you want to make sure you appoint someone else to have full access of that team drive.
And the collaboration team can also help with any of those kinds of transitions that need to happen too. Cool. So files within Team Drive can still be shared with collaborators who aren't part of that Team Drive. And so to do that, you click Share from within the file, and you add the email or appropriate and community name, and then provide the appropriate access. You will notice that the interface looks a little different in Team Drives. And so just keep that in mind as you get started with them.
Do we want to do a little bit of a demo?
Sure.
Yeah, so here's Team Drive. You'll notice right off the bat that there's a little bit of a difference in the UI, right? Like the top banner is a little bit different. There over here in the top left-hand corner, you can see what Team Drive you're in, how many members are a part of that Team Drive, who they are, and what access they have. So you'll see here, neither Brian or I say owner. It just says that we have full access. We're just members. We're not actual owners. You can remove a member, and if you try to remove me, you'll see that Brian gets a little bit of a warning message, but he's able to because he has full access. So he can absolutely still remove me.
I do not want to remove you.
Don't do it.
Because we are logged in as you. And here you can also switch to edit access, comment access, view access.
Yes, and you get a message when you're downgrading someone's access as well. So that's nice. They warn you a couple times. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, although Brian shouldn't. It just means be careful.
Down here is where you can add members. So here you can put in different email addresses. Put in Jim Caldwell. And when you add people, you want to make sure that you'll notice here that full is the default permission level. We really recommend that unless you want somebody to have that administrative power over that Team Drive, that you bump them to edit. You can put a notification in here or decide to skip. You send, and a notification is sent off to Jim that he now has access to the Team Drive.
So you'll notice it works very similarly, right? It's pretty much the same with My Drive, except it's just a different UI. I also want to point out here the drop down right there. So that's where you can do quite a few things to add members, manage members, change the theme. Again, notice because Brian has full access, he can rename the Team Drive. So it's a lot of power. Can you handle the power?
I think I can.
All right.
You can also search within a particular Team Drive, view the trash. So the trash is for the drive as a whole, again, not an individual. And you can only delete the Team Drive once the trash has been emptied. So,
Storage size limitations?
Nope. No, just as in My Drive, there is no limitation. If you want to create something new, again, it's the same. Click on New, and you can do most of the same things that you can do in My Drive. We say most because in our testing, we did realize that there were a couple things. One person who was testing wanted to be able to, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, upload a Google form.
We're going to move the camera a bit so we can see
Yeah,
you
sure.
when you talk, because otherwise it's just. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, you can. I'm sorry. I know what I was going to say. Okay, so we did have someone who was attempting to upload a document into a Google form in Team Drives. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that was not working for them. Honestly, I didn't realize you could do that in My Drive, so that's something that I don't have a lot of experience with, but we have found in our testing that there are a few things like that right now are not possible in Team Drive. The good news is that Google is always improving and always making changes. We have been testing things, and one day something won't work, and the very next day it will. So we believe that they will continue to improve this.
Wow, people have a lot of questions, which is great. So Holly says, do the other full access members get notified when another full access member makes major changes, or is there an audit log perhaps?
So there is actually. If you click on the info button here for the drive, you will see that you can see a record of everything that's been done. So you can see yesterday I put some things in here. Jen moved something to this yesterday, and then I edited this item in that respect, so the actual slide deck.
Does one need a Google account to access a team drive, like if a UM staff needs to share a directory with a third-party team?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So we know that you can share files with people outside of Google Drive. I don't know with a whole team drive if you can share.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that.
Do you know, Jim?
You can share folders externally, but you can share files individually externally. So you could create a shareable link for the file. You just can't share the entire folder.
And so here, for example, if I take a look at the slides here, if I click here and I go to share team drive, you'll see that you have the ability here. It says who has access. Link sharing is turned on right now. So people who are at the University of Michigan who have this link can go to this document. But you can also limit according to people within what people within the University of Michigan instance can do, or you can allow external access, and you can make it searchable and findable in search results too.
Also take a minute to see that the UI, again, is a little bit different, right? Like you've got this little button for link sharing on and off. You can still do all the same things, but the UI is a bit different. If you'll go ahead and hit those three dots, this is where you can restrict download, print, and copy actions on that file. It's in a different place in my drive. So you still have those options available to you in Team Drive. The UI is just takes a second to get used to. To be honest, I really like this UI a little bit. I'd be okay if all of my drive went like this. So I like the UI.
Got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Jennifer says, does the team member permission level propagate to all subfolders? Can I give the full team edit access to the main folder and subfolders, but they have specific subfolder that only a few people can edit and others can only view?
So it's important that when you are thinking about team drives, is the word team. So anybody who is in a team has the ability to, at the very least, see the files that are inside of it. So a big delineator of telling you when you should have more than one team drive is if you have a subset of people that you want to have being able to view files and others not, if that makes sense. So for example, with one of the groups we've been working with, they have an all staff team drive, but then they have a separate one for their lead team, a separate one for staff versus students. And so you can be a member of multiple team drives, and they all show up over here on the left. But the key denominator is that person, should they have view access to a file or not?
And once you give a whole M community group or individuals access to that top team drive, they have the same access going down.
Yeah.
You can't give them different access on each subfolder. What you can do is you can give a whole M community group, say, edit access, and then go in and give a few of those people full access. But again, that access stays true not only at the top level, but every subfolder as well.
Yeah.
Camille says, can you add a user to a team drive for a limited amount of time?
Yeah.
You have to go in and
you have to go in and take, yeah.
Yeah, and so that would be either, adding somebody individually or managing it from an community standpoint.
But it is then, Camille, your responsibility or whoever to go in and take that access away.
Kim says, can you add the document to the team drive and then pull it into a Google form? I don't quite know what that means.
If you're referring to what we said earlier, we the person who was testing was absolutely unsuccessful on getting a document attached to a Google form in Team Drive.
As a reply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can a Google shared resource gain access to a Team Drive folder?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Would that be a shared account?
Sean, we're not quite sure.
A shared account?
Or a shared resource as in like a calendar or a room?
Sean will have to
Okay.
tell us a little more. Let's see. And Nancy says, can you talk about the change in Google Drive on Mac/Windows and how these will not be available in the new tool?
So Google, the Google Drive app is going to be going away. So the syncing app, and both Google and Box are leaving that realm of on the enterprise level of having this one-to-one sync. So if you have 6 gigs of things on Box or Google and you want to have those things available on your computer, it takes up space. And so coming down the line, there will be something called Google Drive File Stream, which is kind of superseding, replacing the Google Drive app. We're in the process of starting testing on that with the understanding that it'll be available later this month.
Yes, Sean did mean shared account.
Okay.
It's a user in every sense of the word, so a shared account should be able to have access to a Team Drive.
Yep, I believe Rick has done some testing with that, and it would work the exact same way. You put the shared account email address as a member. So that's good news.
Cheryl wants to know, why would we use this instead of M plus Box, pros and cons?
So again, if you are in a situation where you really want to retain native files, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Box is a great way to do that. If your workflow is more in the Google ecosphere of using Docs, Drive, Slides, this is a better fit in that regard.
Sure. A big pro is you don't have to leave your Drive, right? I mean, if you're already working in Google Drive and if that's a place where a lot of your team stores their files, then you don't have to go leave at all. You can go right into Team Drive.
Wow, we have never had so many questions.
We also have some slides to get through. So I just want to make sure we do that too, and maybe going through more of the slides will answer some of
that.
these.
And I'm going to hang on to these questions, folks.
Okay.
Cool. So we talked about sharing files with the link with file sharing, and so you can turn the link sharing on or off and define who can access the files. One thing that's important is, it's not possible to share at the top Team Drive folder level in Google Team Drives with members outside of the team.
Right. Files only.
It's files only if you want to share outside of the team. Okay.
So if you want to share, a folder with another group, say you're working with Google and you want to share, a folder not only, with, or a lot of the files, maybe not all of them, but a lot of the files with another group like the Canvas group, because you're working on an integration, that would need a whole nother Team Drive. And that's fine. Like, that's something to know too. You can have more than one Team Drive. As we spoke earlier about some of the teams we work with, they have a committee Team Drive, an all staff Team Drive, a lead Team Drive. You can have several Team Drives, so you're going to want to keep that in mind.
Can existing folders in my drive be easily converted to Team Drive?
So we're going to go through a little bit of that.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'll just go ahead and say, all right, we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
So this talks a little bit about that. So team members can move files to the drive if they're the owner, or if is the owner still around, and depending on what kind of access you have. So if you're not the owner of the file, the owner must be a part of the Team Drive in order to move that file to Team Drive.
And, we understand that there are some circumstances, as we spoke earlier, lots of people leave the university for different reasons. If that owner is already gone, you can work, the collaboration team will absolutely work with you on getting those files.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to move files from one team drive to another team drive, the member who's doing that must have at least edit access in the original team drive and the new team drive.
And one of the reasons that that's important is because you can't have a file in more than one team drive.
Right.
If you need one specific file in several team drives, you have to make copies of that. You can't have one file in more than one team drive.
Right. So in this digital physical world, a single file can only live in one team drive at a time. So there's some differences in regard to team drives versus my drive. So as we have been saying, the team owns the files and folders in Google Team Drives, versus with my drive, it's the individual who created the file or folder. You can restore files if you have edit or full access in team drives. And again, to move files between team drives, you must have at least edit access in the original drive and the destination. Basically, you need to be able to write content to both places.
Yes. So here's where we talk a little bit about moving folders. So in terms of moving a whole folder from my drive to team drive, it needs to be the collaboration services team that moves that folder. And they will obviously work with people on campus to migrate that data. Moving folders inside of team drive is possible. Again, the person moving the folder must have full access to the original team drive. So if you are moving a folder, a whole folder of content, you can't just have edit access. You have to have full access to the original team drive where that folder lives, and at least edit access to the new team drive where you're attempting to move that folder. Something to keep in mind is when you're moving a whole folder, you change that folder ID, which is the URL. So if you have a link to that folder somewhere out there and you are moving that folder from one team drive to another or from my drive to a team drive, then you want to make sure you change that link.
So in regards to sharing, all team members see the same set of files. Again, they have the ability to view all of the files in the team drive at the very least. And it is possible to have several team drives with different sets of people in each drive.
If you move a folder, do the existing permissions move with it at a file level?
So we have done some testing with this.
Yeah.
What we found is this. If you move a folder and there are inherited rights, like let's say I move a folder to team drive and I've given Brian access to each of those files in that folder, specifically Brian, he will keep that access. If I have given Jim Caldwell rights just to the folder itself, he will not keep that access. Does that make sense, the way that I worded that? So inherited rights from a folder level are not retained when you move a folder from my drive to team drive, but individual rights on the files themselves do.
Cool. And then as far as how long do files stay in the trash, each team drive has its own trash, as I showed before. Only full members can delete, and it's there for 30 days until the trash automatically deletes. And those with full access can pull stuff out of the trash at any time. So there are some limitations that we're finding even within the standard Google Web UI. And one of the interesting ones right now is it's not possible to navigate to team drives within a Google Calendar invite. So if you're trying to attach a document in a team drive, you have to do a little bit of a workaround. So what you're going to want to do is you can obviously with Google, you can use search and find the appropriate file and it will show up as a match. You can also take a look at your recent files if it's one that you've used in the immediate recent past and attach that. Or if you have the URL to that particular file, you can copy and paste that into the calendar invite.
Another nice thing is Google Calendar will warn you, even with a team drive file, if you put a URL in there and share it with someone who doesn't have access, you'll still get the same warning. This person does not have access to this document. Would you like to provide that? So that's good.
Mobile devices, it's an interesting world right now. So if you're going to use team drives with mobile devices, understand that Google is saying that Team Drives is not yet fully supported. And we found the user experience isn't universal across. It works really well, but there are some things, some idiosyncrasies, depending on the application you're using and the OS that you're using on your mobile device. We also are seeing that it doesn't seem to integrate well with Inbox at the moment. So performance varies when trying to attach files from Team Drive when using Inbox either on the web or mobile interface. Things seem to work just fine, though, with the standard Gmail application on mobile devices as well as the web interface.
Yep, we found with some people that were testing that they were unable to pull files from some Drive API connections. The examples that we have for sure are FedEx and Kinko's. It does not currently support attachments in Trello, which we realize is an issue for some teams. It's not possible to access files from Backup or Sync by Google. And there are likely others that we don't know yet. These were what we found in our testing. So we want to let you know that there is currently a lack of integration. Now, the good news is that Google Team Drive is using API version 3. So we anticipate this getting better and better. Again, that's something that Google is really good at changing and consistent improvements. So we're hoping this gets better.
Yeah. So with the interesting nature of Team Drives, the different nature, we wanted to talk a little bit about best practices as you start to think about if you want to use Team Drives. So naming conventions are pretty important. Currently, there are no barriers set up or no limitations in Team Drive to prevent having the exact same name for multiple Team Drives, multiple files, multiple folders. So keep that in mind as you start to think about the structure that you want to plan out to use Team Drives. We're recommending that you try to use the Active Directory prefix for your school or college or unit, or if people are more accustomed to using an acronym for your particular school, college, or unit, just make sure that it is something easily recognizable by those who would be on the team.
We have a question?
When you say inbox, are you talking about Canvas? Or do you mean Gmail?
We're talking about Google Inbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, it's best to have that prefix be in front of the particular name of the drive. So as we said before, we have folks that have been helping test this. They have IGR All, IGR Common Ground, IGR Leads, IGR Staff. As far as that goes.
Another reason we're recommending this, I imagine there are several people that will be a part of several team drives. If you have 5 team drives called All Staff, that might get confusing for you. And again, there are no barriers set up in Google Drive to stop people from naming their team drives the exact same thing. So it'll be better for everyone in the long run if you really put a little bit of time and effort into establishing some good naming conventions.
Yep. And the only people who can rename team drives are the ones that have full access. So again, that's why it's important to really limit that to folks who really should have that oversight and administrative duty over that team folder.
There was an earlier question about, are you members of the IGR team, and that's why you can see their folders?
Yes, we currently are.
Yeah.
They were in our pilot and we were helping them, so yeah.
Yep. And so as they remove us, those will fall off on the left side and won't be visible anymore.
Can a group be an owner?
Be an owner? There are no owners in Google Team Drive.
Can a group have ownership of Team Drive as opposed to a person? Like I am community.
Right.
Oh, but an owner of a Team Drive. You mean, can they have full access? Yes, you can give a whole community group full access.
Now, Ron was just saying, can a group have ownership of a Team Drive?
I would say that would probably be a Jim with shared account, if that's.
Well, yeah, it's the whole concept of the Team Drive doesn't really have an owner anymore.
Right,
whoever has full access.
Right.
So if you give that group full access, it is probably what you're thinking of as an owner.
Yeah.
So
No, go ahead.
So migrating data from Google Team Drive, we really recommend that you put some time and effort, be really intentional about how you want to move your Team Drive to make the migration data easier. Again, we suggest that you move files, do not copy them. Copying files will be, I think it'll be very confusing for people. If you have one copy in your My Drive and one copy in Team Drive, then how do you know what to go to in terms of collaborating? It also changes the URL. So if you have linked files out there on a site, you definitely don't want to just make, so make sure you pay attention to that. You want to organize everything intended for a Team Drive into a folder first. And that will make it easier for the collaboration team to help migrate that data.
And as we talked about before, as you start to plan out your drives, anybody who's a member has view access. So as you're creating these folders and gathering things to move, make the folders such that is what you're operating on.
Absolutely. And again, with the moving the folders, that will be the collaboration services team helping you do that. So don't get frustrated if you're trying to move folders and say, they said I could do this and I can't. That will be the collaboration services team helping with that migration.
So I think we covered all of these points in regard to doing some planning before requesting.
We have a question?
We have a question.
Ian says, some folks in my group have created network drives in G Drive by creating a top-level shared directory and a folder structure within it. It appears Team Drive is slightly more streamlined, robust, is a more streamlined way to create network drives. Is that true?
I don't know. It's hard to know without.
We may have to get back to you on that. Definitely, the Team Drives are a more team-based approach to doing this file sharing and really helping to make sure data isn't lost and is accessible and available by the team. So.
Ron says again, can an M community group have full access? That is a really big deal. For instance, in some departments, the administrators want the IT sysadmin group to have full control of the Team Drive. Members of the IT sysadmin group may come and go, but the group will remain.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Sheila says, how do we contact the collaboration team? We'll send that out, right? Or is it in your...
Well, so in terms of actually getting started with Team Drives, again, it's not available yet. It will not be available until October. We will send out all sorts of communications to make sure everyone knows when it is. It will be a ticket to the service center, and the service center will be escalating that as appropriate. So in terms of getting set up with Team Drives, not right now. Be patient. We'll let you know. And it'll be a ticket to the service center.
Okay.
And know that this month in September we're working really hard to test some of these interesting cases that are brought to our attention, and also to make sure our documentation and really the way that these can be used here at the University of Michigan is communicated in our particular environment here.
Absolutely.
Victoria says, has anyone tested how Team Drive works with the Drive integration in Canvas? Because Canvas now has Google Drive
integration. I don't believe that I know of.
Yeah, not something we've looked at yet, but certainly we can team up with a teaching and learning team here. And I know that there are folks in that team interested in Google Team Drives, so we'll kick the tires on that for sure.
Have we answered Luke's question in the very beginning about why does it show, let's see, why do the documents I created in a Team Drive still show me as the owner?
So if he goes into the document, I'd be curious, if it's in Team Drive and he goes into the document and it says owner instead of full access, I would suggest maybe take a screenshot of that and send it to us. There's definitely something going on.
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, to address Ron's question, membership can be done individually or with community groups, and the lowest appropriate permission level should be assigned for all members, meaning all staff would be viewed.
Yeah.
Higher permission levels can be assigned to individuals as needed, either on an individual level or within community groups. So again, When?
We know a lot of people are really interested in this, and we really want to get it out there. But the process will be so much easier for the collaboration services team and for all of you if we have all of our ducks in a row. We need to have the right documentation so that you can know exactly how best to use your team drives. So we are still getting that together. Again, we will announce it. We will not let a day go by having this available to everyone without letting you guys know about it. We will absolutely get the announcement out there. And then the collaboration team is available for making sure that the large data migration needs are met. Along with making sure that, if you have a lot of files or folders where the owner is gone, that happens today in my drive, right? So they have a process set up to make sure that happens appropriately. So that will still happen with Google Team Drives.
And we got about 2 minutes.
Okay, so questions? I'd love to believe that we answered all of those questions, but I'm not sure that that's possible.
Well, I'm going to download the chat and just make sure. And when I send out the recording, we'll send out any responses we didn't get to yet.
Okay. You can certainly, throw me an IM or an email if you have questions. If I can answer it, Brian, any of us, we want to help everybody and get all the answers out there. We're still learning about this too, which I think it's been a really cool process. So we can't maybe give you all the answers, but we can tell you that we're trying to learn all about it and figure it all out.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, Sean says thanks. We've been going back and forth whether to move on Google shared account to Mbox, but now Team Drive is upon us. Decisions.
Yay.
Yeah,
Good to hear it.
So.
Yeah. And happy Thursday, Sean.
Okay. We're about ready to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian and Jen.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you, when I send out the recording, which will be in the next day or two, I'm going to send you a Google Doc with some resource links. You can find links to all of the recordings on our YouTube channel, on our IT4U website. If you want to sign up for announcements of upcoming episodes, we'll give you that information too. And that's about it. It's a little clunky in our new interface, but Adam, our tech support guy, is going to put a link to the polls, which we would love to get some feedback from you about today and stuff that you would like to see in the future. So if you just take a second, that is in the polls, and that would be fabulous. And we'll send out the recording, and here we go. And I think that's about it.